That's the strongest basil. Oh my God, that is so strong.
Super strong. It makes the most amazing pesto.
Do you often...
I might take some home every so often.
For the past century, industrial farming practices and the globalization of our food supply have caused great damage to environmental systems and contributed to the climate crisis. As the impacts of soil degradation and water scarcity increase, so does the impact on the quality of our food. So how do we feed a growing population safely and sustainably? I'm here in London to find out if urban vertical farming is part of the answer. Hi, Jamie.
Hi Frankie, nice to meet you.
Hi, am I in the right place? It doesn't feel like you've got a farm growing here.
Yes, we've got two to show you today.
Jamie and his team at Vertical Future have been running a traditional vertical farm for the past 3.5 years, growing fresh produce for local restaurants.
It's not often you head upstairs to a farm, is it?
No.
Wow. It's a big impact on your eyes, isn't it?
Yes, exactly, yeah. It seems like you're almost in like another world or a spaceship or something. This is about 70% red and 30% blue in terms of the lighting, and is a good mix for these type of plants. So we've got watercress, sage, Greek cress, different types of basil. This is wasabi mustard.
You've got this all year round, it's the same temperature. Can you just grow whatever you want?
To a degree, I mean, there are limits on what these systems can grow. We're never going to grow coconuts and bananas or anything in a vertical farm, but in general, you can grow a decent amount of baby leaf crops, all your different types of herbs, and obviously full head lettuce as well.
Obviously, it looks completely different to other types of farming, but how does it actually differ growing crops here than it does to growing them in the outside world?
By moving crops indoors, you're effectively allowing a higher degree of control over the growing environment. So generally we see much higher yields. We're much closer to end consumers, so we have a reduction in food miles. And this is a standard hydroponic system. So one of the good things about not using soil and having a system like this, which is relatively contained, is that we don't have to use any pesticides or herbicides or fungicides. The idea is for this to be a much more sustainable approach.
But then you look around and we're actually in a warm area, we're in a building, there's lots of lighting going on. Is it really more sustainable?
We're using pretty much off-the-shelf technologies for this particular farm. The farm that we're going to show you afterwards, which is our own technology, we've very much focused on seeking improvements in every single area and designing a system which confronts all those issues.
Jamie and his team have redesigned many elements of these vertical farming systems with the plan to sell their hardware and software to future farmers across the world.
Oh wow, what's happening up there?
A major part of their new system is that it's fully automated from seeding to harvest.
It does look funny, doesn't it? Just cress on the move.
So we came up with a float system in these canals where products are continually moving through the system. These are also aeroponic and hydroponic systems. And then outside of this main growing process, we've automated pretty much every component. So we've got robots on each side where energy is required to obviously move crops. And then we've got this almost like roller coaster type system here for effectively sorting out crops, harvesting and cleaning.
The aeroponic system works by spraying the roots with a fine mist containing a recipe of nutrients that normally would be found in soil. This means the plants can focus their energy on growing upwards rather than down.
Jen, who's our head of plant R&D, will talk to you about the reason why we've got different colours.
With the industry still in its infancy, the race is on to find the optimum practice.
What on earth is going on here, Jen?
Okay, so this is our new system, and this is an R&D trial that we're running on it. So these plants are growing under the equivalent of daylight.
The daylight, is that because these plants are best suited to daylight?
So basically plants evolved under a daylight situation. So, you know, you've got to start at where their baseline is, and they've baselined all of their development processes on daylight. And so if you're starting to think about, okay, which elements of the light are they using and which aren't they using, the best thing to then do is start stripping it out. Plants do a process called photosynthesis, which I'm sure everybody's heard of, and that's the process by which they use light energy to build sugars and grow bigger. But what plants also do is a process called photomorphogenesis, and that involves different light receptors. So plant cells are full of different receptors for light. So they have things like phytochromes and cryptochromes, and these all respond to different wavelengths of light.
Photomorphogenesis is the regulatory effect of light on the growth and development of plants. Plants use photoreceptors to sense different wavelengths for environmental cues such as the day-night transition and light quality to adapt their growth. Phytochromes are the receptors that respond to red light, and cryptochromes respond to blue light. These have a variety of functions, including regulating seed germination, plant height, leaf number, size and shape, as well as determining when the plant will flower.
So that's why we're cutting out different wavelengths, is because we want to see how the plant responds. And it might be that it responds and it grows faster, or we get a different shape of leaf maybe. But actually, I think what we're also likely to see are things where the plant will produce a different biochemistry, so it'll taste different, it'll have different sensorial properties. And that's really important if you're looking to produce, really sort of taste differentiated crops.
So in a way, is this genetically modified?
No, not at all. So this is working with the genetics that the plant has, but what we're doing is we're activating certain parts of the genome to do things under conditions when maybe they wouldn't normally do it. It's well known that plants use red and blue light for photosynthesis, and that generally they reflect green light. And that's why down here, the plants almost look black. It's because they're using and they're taking all that red and blue light in. And up here, they are reflecting a lot of that green light. But there's a lot of data that's coming to light that shows that plants don't just reflect all of the green light, they do use some of it. And the exposure to green light can actually give yield gains. So these sort of like traditional pink farms, they're photosynthetically efficient, but are they truly efficient for plant development? And that's the sort of questions that we're looking to ask here.
These artificial lighting setups also allow these farmers to remove all seasonality from the growing process, replicating lighting temperatures for different seasons to produce many more harvests all year round.
These aren't getting any light at the moment.
No, so this is nighttime on this shelf. So 12 hours of light, 12 hours of dark, and that allows us to open out the shelves.
The concept of vertical farming has been around for decades, but only in recent years have the advances in LED lighting allowed for the production of certain premium crops to become a commercially viable business model.
We've got some mustard, we've got some broccoli here.
And you say that's broccoli. That doesn't look like the kind of broccoli that I eat.
So a typical broccoli, like the broccoli you'd be used to, there's a big head. They've been grown for months. But this is a microgreen, so you can see the first 2 leaves have come out. So these are the seed leaves, called the cotyledons. And once this has 1 or 2, what we would term true leaves, that would then be a microgreen. So between germination and harvest, we're looking at really no more than two weeks for a typical microgreen. They're really tasty, and they do have, particularly broccoli, packs an incredibly nutritious punch. So this is a basil microgreen.
And why would someone want that over, say, the basil plant that you would buy in a general supermarket?
The flavour is just so much more intense. Try something you like.
That's the strongest basil.
And so that's the beauty of the controlled conditions.
Oh my God, that is so strong.
Super strong. It makes the most amazing pesto.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Do you often...
I might take some home every so often. So we're able to also sort of, play tunes with the nutrients as well as playing tunes with the light. So we do get a much more nutritious, better tasting crop out of it.
And that tastes very much like pea, but very strong pea. Oh, wow. The taste test is done and I approve.
Due to energy economics, these practices have been restricted to the farming of leafy greens, herbs and microgreens. But soon we expect to see farms transition to the next phase of root vegetables and ground fruits, which require approximately 2.5 times more energy to grow.
How do you think this is all going to fit into the future of farming?
So it's not going to replace traditional crop farming, like what would be called broadacre farming isn't going anywhere, because there's crops like wheat and barley which are just too big to grow in systems like this. But these systems do really well in producing salad crops, and a lot of the salad is actually imported. So to reduce reliance on imports, to reduce food miles, you can localize production. It also allows you to be produced year round and not have to worry about the seasons. And so it allows you to become much more sort of, as a nation, self-sufficient.
You want to sell on this technology. How much interest have you had?
I think most of our interest is coming from those parts of the world that are getting hit hardest by things like climate change and where there's a very high propensity to import goods. So for example, the Middle East, a lot of the countries there are 90% plus imports. I think for them it's really about stability in the supply chain and overall food security, and I think COVID has highlighted the fragility of global food systems. So if we can farm crops closer to customers in a much more sustainable way that's cost effective, why shouldn't we?
We do have a growing population. How do you see us feeding all of those people safely and sustainably?
First of all, I think that one of the key aspects that vertical farming addresses is not really about the volume of food, it's about the quality of food and the distribution of food. So at present, for example, we waste a lot of the food that we produce because it's shipped from across the world, or it's covered in nasties, or we have different requirements in terms of the aesthetics. What vertical farming can do is allow you to effectively bring production much closer to the point of consumption, waste less, and increase quality, and also reduce the use of things like pesticides and other nasties that would be associated with outdoor farming. The important thing is that this doesn't remain as some kind of a premium play just for inner city areas and for middle class people who want to, sprinkle products on their food or go to a Michelin star restaurant. This sector needs to become mature.
Vertical farming has seen significant growth over recent years, from industry frontrunners Aero Farms in New Jersey to Emirates Airlines, now funding the world's largest vertical farm in Dubai, set to harvest 3 tons of produce every day. Alongside these super farms, Jamie hopes his modular, scalable systems and knowledge-sharing approach will bring business opportunities and fresh local food to the most unlikely of regions.
It's one of many things that we should be doing as a society, as a human race, to deal with a lot of the issues around climate change and population growth.
Agricultural land's getting pressured, and if you can work ways to intensify agriculture without adding additional pressure to agricultural land, then this is the perfect way of doing it.
Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and hit the bell button below for notifications. We'll see you next time.